Welcome into today's San Francisco 49ers Report. I'm Chase Sr. Appreciate all of you for hanging out and kicking it here. With this coming up on the show, a mailbag, taking all of the questions from the faithful. We're talking Niners roster moves. We're talking Niners Packers in the divisional round. And the faithful, they're always showing off that football intellect. That's why I always love taking all of the questions here on the show. If you haven't subscribed by the way, to the channel, make sure you do so right now, because if you ain't subscribed, you ain't alive. And sub for Niners Dubs. We're about to reach another milestone of 109,000 subscribers. We're 394 people away. So if you want Niners shows coming your way every single day, hit that sub button and lock us in. Francisco Avila with a $5 super chat. Are these coaching interviews going to be a distraction? Is Wilks focused on the game plan? I think that Steve Wilks definitely focused in on the game plan, and what's good here is that Wilks hasn't had to travel for his interviews. He's interviewed with the Los Angeles Chargers as well as the Atlanta Falcons. These interviews have been virtual, and I have confidence in Wilks, who's been through this process before, that he's going to focus in on this game plan and put the Niners in a position to play their best football against the Green Bay Packers. And then you think about some of the assistant coaches, like Clint Kubiak, who interviewed for the Bears offensive coordinator job, for instance, as well as an assistant special teams coach interviewing for a special teams gig with the New York Giants. These are mid to low-level assistants that, of course, are important within this coaching staff, but it's not like they're marquee, really important coaches for this team. And then you have Steve Wilks interviewing virtually. So I am confident that the goal remains the same, and that's trying to chase this Super Bowl on this quest for 6. Kyle Hayes, how are we feeling about Saturday, faithful? With the $2 super chat right there. I'll tell you how I feel. I'm feeling good. I don't think that this is going to be a repeat of the 2019 NFC Championship game when San Francisco ran for 280 yards and averaged more than 7 yards per carry, and Raheem Mostert had more than 2 bills and 4 touchdowns. I think that this game is going to be a little bit closer. This Packers team is talented. They're deep. They can throw it. They can run it. They're fearless, and the pressure is not on Green Bay. But can they go on the road to beat the 2-seed Cowboys and the 1-seed Niners? That's a tall test. And I love what Fred Warner has said at points this week. You think we're going to overlook an opponent? We're not going to be able to do that, and we're not going to do that because we can't afford to do that. So I like where the heads are at for San Francisco here. They seem to be confident, and I like how they've gone about the bye week practices. Kyle Shanahan said Brock Purdy didn't have a bye week. We pushed him really hard. And the Niners did some one-on-one drills. They even put the pads on during their bye week. They're a physical football team who's going about this in a way that I like, trying to maintain that level of physicality. They're not just cakewalking into this game against the Packers. So I'm feeling good, and I think San Francisco's going to really try to run the football against one of the worst rushing defenses in the National Football League. Tyler Caressley, $10. Chase, how do you feel about these playoffs so far with the Eagles, Cowgirls, and Lambs all losing in the wild card weekend? It's a good question there, Tyler, because going into the playoffs, I like the Niners' hopes of getting back to the Super Bowl and going to Las Vegas in February. And part of the reason why I did was because I liked how they stacked up against the landscape in the NFC. And now you take the 2-seed Cowboys out. They were going to be a dangerous opponent. You take the Rams and their level of familiarity out. I thought that could have been a really sneaky good and difficult second-round matchup. And the Philadelphia Eagles, the Niners broke that organization in Week 13, completely dominated them, and the Eagles never recovered mentally or physically or with their offensive and defensive schemes. So I feel really good about where the Niners are at right now because the path is there. And if they don't make it to the Super Bowl, it is a disaster. I know the Packers are feisty. You're better than them and should beat them. And then you get the winner of Detroit and Tampa Bay, 2 teams that you were much better than. So, Tyler, the path is opened up, and there is an avenue for San Francisco to be playing in Las Vegas for Super Bowl 58. Janie Wyatt, a $50 super chat. Are there going to be moves from the practice squad? If so, who? Let's go Niners. Bang, bang, Niner gang. Chug, chug, chug. So, Jeannie, there were some practice squad moves, I should say, made on Tuesday. Jeremy McNichols, running back, let go from the practice squad. Austin Bryant added to the practice squad, and he could be elevated to the game day roster. We'll certainly see there. And then the Niners have elevated Eric Harris, practice squad safety, to the active roster ever since George Odom went out with that biceps injury. But George Odom, his practice window was open last week, limited participant in practice on Tuesday. And if he does come back, and if he is able to play, you get one of your special teams aces back, and then Eric Harris might get let go, at the very least not elevated from the practice squad to the game day roster. Niner Mafia, $5 super chat. Thank you for that as well. What do you think of Kyle splitting the runs between Christian McCaffrey, Debo, and Elijah Mitchell? So Christian McCaffrey is completely healthy. He's back to his normal self. He even said that if he needed to play in Week 18, coming off that calf strain against Washington in Week 17, he would have been able to play. But he rested against the Rams. He rested during the bye week. And I think that's great for his health status going into this game against the Packers, a Packers team that has struggled against the run this year, giving up 4 games of more than 200 rushing yards. You want to run Christian McCaffrey as much as you can, right, because of how special he is. As for Elijah Mitchell, maybe you sprinkle in a carry here and there, but because the Packers have struggled against the ground game, I do want to see Kyle Shanahan scheme up some plays for Debo Samuel to get some carries, because you want to put the ball in the hands of your best playmakers. Niner Mafia, that's a good question right there. Our mailbag today on the Niners Report is sponsored by Factor Meals, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal delivery service. Choose from a bevy of chef-prepared, dietitian-approved meals that are delivered straight to your door. And everything is prepared for you. So all you have to do is unpack your Factor box, which comes cooled, and you don't even have to let everything thaw. They're ready to go. You just stick these meals in the microwave. They're ready to eat. And for a lot of you out there who like protein and you like the meats, they have protein-heavy options. For those of you who are on that keto train, there are keto options available. And then for those of you who like vegetarian options, you can choose from a lot of vegetarian meals every single week. So you pick your pre-made meals on the site, factormeals.com/NinersChat50. Everything is prepped and cooked to perfection. You heat these meals up and you enjoy them. It's that simple. Miss Katrina is a first-time super chatter. Checking in with the 10. We're also going to put you on the Toby Willis helmet here, and you're going to get a gold sticker alongside the other real ones. How confident are we with our offensive line with the return of Eric Armstead? So Eric Armstead obviously on the defensive line, and I think his addition is going to be really important for this team, because when the Packers have played their best football this year, they've had a complementary approach. When they've been too pass-skewed, they're not as good. But over the last 4 weeks, Aaron Jones has more than 100 rushing yards in all those games. And what's happened? The Packers are 4-0. So when you get Eric Armstead back, he just helps you against the run. As for the Niners' offensive line, that's one of the big concerns that I have about this team. And if they don't come to play on that right side, with Colton McKivitz at right tackle, and Brock Purdy is under siege, or if he gets hurt, or if he gets hit, which can lead to interceptions, that's a way where the Niners can get bounced in the playoffs. So offensive line, right tackle, right guard, it's a concern. What I would do, I'd give this offensive line a boost by just starting John Feliciano, who's been really good on a value deal this year for San Francisco. And I'm just hoping that Colton McKivitz can hang tough and he can play really good football here in the playoffs. Maybe you put a tight end on that side to chip the edge. JC, what's the long-term plan with Eric Armstead? It seems as though his health isn't going to get any better in the future with this foot. Plantar fasciitis isn't something that is career-threatening by any means, but what the concern is, Jay, is that he has had that injury in back-to-back years. So you do make a fair point there. For Eric Armstead, next year, 2024, will be the final year of his contract. Base salary of $17.4 million, a lofty cap hit of $28 million. The Niners have restructured his contract a couple of times, and that's why that deal is so heavy at $28.3 million. You can't cut him because there's a dead cap hit charge of $26+ million. So you're going to have to eat that salary, and you can't backload it anymore because that's the final year of his deal. You could give him a contract extension, and then you could backload that deal. But the Niners are going to be on the hook for a pretty hefty salary there of $28 million. When on the field this year, he's been dominant. He's played really well, and he plays his best football in the playoffs. Hopefully, he's able to show it for the playoffs once again. Aaliyah, your thoughts on the Niners' defense against the Packers' offense. If the Niners suffer an injury in the secondary, that's when I become a little bit concerned. I do like their starting three at corner with Deamador Lenore in the slot, and then Ambry Thomas and Charvarius Ward on the outside. This is a Packers team with Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson. They're deep, they're young, they're skilled at wide receiver. They also have a couple of really, really good tight ends. So with Matt LaFleur and the creative sense that he has, and it's a skill to be an offensive play caller, he's really good at it. You know, he could scheme guys wide open, and we saw that against the Dallas Cowboys where the Cowboys were just so confused. And there were times where the camera from the broadcast had to zoom out because players on that Packers offense were so wide open. So that's a little bit of an issue here. The pass rush is going to have to get home on Jordan Love. They're going to have disciplined pass rush lanes because of his ability to extend plays in and out of the pocket. He does a great job of, even though the pocket's breaking down, just sliding to his left or sliding to his right. He has such a strong arm, and he can throw off platform where he can throw it deep downfield, and then running the football. That has been a strength for this Packers team of late. So again, you can't take this Packers team lightly. They are legit, very well coached, emerging young team. Their lack of experience didn't really show against Dallas. Will it show against San Francisco? And if you do get that pass rush home, does that result in turnovers? Over his last 10 games, Jordan Love, 23 touchdowns, 3 picks. Mr. Black Ice, is there an update on Jawan Jennings? Yes. Did return to practice this week, coming out of concussion protocol, and I think the Niners have really missed him. The Niners have missed him because he's a really good run blocker, but also right place, right time so often on some of the money downs on 3rd and 4th down. When you got to have it on some of those downs, he's often the target to go to. Greedy Greg, how different is Green Bay with Love compared to Aaron Rodgers? You know, it's funny that you ask that, Greedy Greg, because it's an awesome question first, and I'm happy to share my analysis here. When I watched Jordan Love against the Cowboys, I felt like at times I was watching Aaron Rodgers. Both of them kind of jump when they throw. Both of them are heavy arm throwers. Both can drop down their arm slots where they can throw it from up top, sidearm, or even drop it down low, baseball player style like we see from Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen so often. They do such a great job of maybe being forced out of the pocket and then making a defender miss. And even if there's a defender right here, they drop that arm down and they can just really, really sling it. So they're very similar in that way. And then the dropbacks for Rodgers and Love are also very, very similar, where they kind of just have that back pedal, and they can afford to do that, whereas Brock Purdy has to set his feet and kind of throw because he doesn't have the physical traits of Jordan Love. Jordan Love and Aaron Rodgers can kind of just backpedal and then just kind of throw it off that back leg, and with the flick of the wrist, they could throw it deep downfield. So the arm talent, the athleticism, and the arm ability, very, very impressive for Jordan Love, and does remind me a lot of Aaron Rodgers. Good question right there, Greedy Greg. Matt Keller, my dog, how will the Niners receivers match up with the Green Bay secondary? We're not Dallas. Our receivers can actually get separation. Outside of CeeDee Lamb, not many receivers for the Cowboys are good. Or did I mess that up? Outside of CeeDee Lamb, the Cowboys receiving core, I don't think is that good. Like, Brandon Cooks had a pretty solid year as far as scoring touchdowns, and they utilized him in the red zone, but he's a little bit small, didn't get a lot of separation. And this Niners offense is just so much better and less predictable as compared to the Cowboys. Like, you knew Dallas was going to go run, run, throw. And then you knew when they did throw it, they were going to try to target CeeDee Lamb. This Packers secondary, it is deep. They have a lot of really good corners, a lot of really good safeties. The defensive line, it's not special and great by any means, but it's solid. But this Niners team, they can hit you with the run with McCaffrey. Brock Purdy can improvise and extend plays out of structure. And then the weapons on this team, Debo, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, they can really just slice you up. And when you pair that with the play calling and the play designing of Kyle Shanahan, when he's in his bag, this Niners team, they can really move the football and score at will. Niner Babe 75, not looking past the Green Bay Packers, but I don't see them as scary as when they had Aaron Rodgers and CM. Trying to think of who you're talking about there. Coach McCarthy, maybe? Yeah, look, when Aaron Rodgers was there, they were a much more veteran-laden team, and they had a lot more older players. And what's been so impressive about this Packers run, they make it into the playoffs with 9 wins, and everybody thinks that they stink. They're not a bad team. They started 2-5, and they've gone 8-3 since, and they've really caught fire. Jordan Love has made some massive improvements, and they're ahead of schedule. A lot of people thought this was going to be a rebuilding year with all of the young guns and Jordan Love in his first full season as a starter. Brian Gutekunst, the Packers general manager, has done a great job of drafting, and the coaching staff has done a great job of developing talent to a point where this team, for the next 5 years, they're going to be perennial contenders, I believe, in the NFC. John Wallace, will Charvarius Ward cover Romeo Doubs? I do believe that will be the matchup. And they're going to try to get Doubs off of Charvarius Ward with all of the pre-snap motion, but primarily, I think that Charvarius Ward, first-time Pro Bowler, second-team All-Pro, is going to cover Romeo Doubs. Francisco Avila, do you think the Niners need to score fast and stay ahead to win? Kyle looks like he panics a little bit when they fall from behind. I do believe that that is an important element of this game. It's getting off to a fast start so that you have that confidence, you have that swagger, you play from ahead, and that just allows Kyle Shanahan to really find a groove and this offense to work and operate at its best as compared to coming from behind. And they're just not the same team when they have to come from behind. And given that this Packers team is really good when they do score first, and they're playing with house money and no pressures on them, if you go down early in this game, you hear the from the crowd. You start to feel tense a little bit. You start to overthink, and you're not just playing up to your standard because you're doing too much overthinking. So, yes, I do believe that getting off to an early start is important, especially with Brock Purdy having 3 weeks between games. Wet Noodle, final question of this mailbag. It's my birthday. Just wanted to say hi because I'm logging on. Wet Noodle, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Wet Noodle 187. Happy birthday to you. Thank you to everybody who watched the show here today. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on those notifications. Therefore, whenever we push out a video, you will be notified.